The Radio Shack aboard Uncle Sam's largest dirigible. The ZR-1, recently completed at Lakehurst, New Jersey, is equipped with a 3-kilowatt continuous wave transmitter and a Navy-type receiver. The aerial consists of about 100 feet of wire, weighted at the end, which is paid out through the side of the gondola. John T. Robertson, radio operator on the ZR-1, is shown at the window of the operating room. During the first flight, he kept the station at the Lakehurst field in constant touch with the ship's maneuvers. "Is it Pittsburgh, Mr. Gallagher?" "No, Chicago, Mr. Sheen." Gallagher and Sheen, the not unknown comedians, are here shown behind the scenes waiting for their act to go on, listening into some station, the exact location of which was not learned, owing to the fact that when the photographer left, they were still arguing as to whether it was Chicago or Pittsburgh. Between the acts with Cyril Maude. The well-known English actor, who has been playing in Aren't We All at the Gaiety Theatre, New York, tried out a receiving set in his dressing room. He failed to hear 2LO near his home in London, but was apparently entertained by some local advice to housewives on preparing spinach. The mayor of Kansas City listens in on Peter Taylor's outfits. Frank H. Cromwell is the first mayor to broadcast police court sessions and other municipal activities as a means of civic education. Peter Taylor, his sister Mildred Taylor, and Blanding Sloan in background invited the mayor to try out the receiving set which they are carrying on their round-the-world auto trip. At the time the picture was taken, the car had done 3,000 miles without breaking a tube in the set, which is mounted in sponge rubber. Indian children listening in, quite as curious as their white neighbors. Casey Stengel is now at bat. Mr. W.O. McGeehan broadcasting one of the World Series games for WEAF. What kind of noise annoys an oyster? This battery of noise-making devices looks as if it might annoy anybody, but the volume and quality of the sound is arranged so as to seem like the real thing to radio listeners. The players are, from left to right, Lola Summers, Rose Kahn, Frank Oliver, Edward St. Louis, and Edward Smith. Between Miss Kahn and Mr. Oliver on a stand is the Bell effect. Mr. Oliver is making it rain cats and dogs with his right hand, and producing the world's most terrifying thunder on the thunder sheet in the background with his left hand. On the table are dishes for what is picturesquely called smash effects. Mr. St. Louis is busy with the telephone effect, and Mr. Smith is coaxing the windstorm machine to the limit. Mr. St. Louis follows the entire play, the others having individual parts. Mr. Oliver is serving as property man, his job being to produce the rattle of the dishes, silver, etc. necessary to create atmosphere. His part is on the table before him. Von de Leith as program manager. The original radio girl, now in charge of the broadcasting programs at WDT New York, is a composer of songs, a recording artist for the phonograph, possessor of a contralto voice of 3-octave range, a pianist, director of an orchestra of 60 pieces, and a recitalist. Hers was one of the first women's voices to bridge the Atlantic. All who have heard her over the radio will agree that she certainly knows how to put over a song. Billy Jones and Ernest Hare, two of the most popular funmakers who ever faced the microphone at WEAF. This popular pair had a big ovation at the Tell and Tell station in New York at their first appearance last July, when they caroled about the scarcity of a certain tropical fruit. Considerable experience in recording for the phonograph has taught them how to put over their acts most clearly and effectively for the radio audience. The snappy University of California Orchestra at KPO. This sextet has provided, for those tuned in on the Hale Brothers station in Frisco, much sparkling jazz. The radio department of a large electrical supply house. Here, the experimenter and broadcast fan can obtain about anything they want, from complete sets to binding posts. His Highness the Maharaja of Kapurthala, at the Radiola Studio, 79 Boulevard Haussmann, Paris. A group of French concert artists at the Auditorium Radiola. This station has not been restricted to French or even continental talent. People of international prominence from all parts of the globe have from time to time contributed to its programs. An eyeful getting an earful. When Johnny Hines, having slipped the cans on, listens enraptured through a phone cord made of clothesline, nothing short of Hope Hampton, co-star in classics of the screen, can wrench the observer's fascinated eye away from him. WTAM, run from storage batteries. This 1,000-watt broadcasting station, built and operated by the Willard Storage Battery Company, has recently opened up in Cleveland, Ohio. It sends on a wavelength of 390 meters. A few of the 1,400 batteries that supply the juice for WTAM, station of the Willard Storage Battery Company in Cleveland, Ohio. Trying to decide what to get in a well-run radio store such as this one in New York, the novice is helped to buy discriminatingly. Many stores do nothing more than put their apparatus out for sale without bothering or knowing how to help the broadcast listener get the best value for his money. Mr. J.H.L. Fink and son Bob of Evansville, Indiana. With this one tube of theirs, they have heard Los Angeles in a pouring rain. The capital city, Washington, D.C., viewed from one of the cross arms at WRC. The aerial wires are 150 feet above the street level, and there is nothing in the vicinity of the Riggs Bank building which can obstruct the radiation of waves from this station. Officials of the ARRL at Wiscasset, Maine. On the right is Hiram Percy Maxim, president of the American Radio Relay League, the organization which is sending Operator Mix with the Macmillan expedition. At the left is F.H. Schnell, traffic manager of the ARRL. And behind the receiving set is K.B. Warner, secretary of the league and editor of QST. The picture was taken at Wiscasset Harbor just before the Bowdoin sailed, and the set was used in testing with WNP during the first few miles of her long journey. Lieutenant Olmsted just before the start of the National Balloon Race. He is shown with the two-tube dry cell outfit which helped him win the race. Radio rendered material assistance to the balloonists through the weather reports sent out from 5 broadcasting stations. Radio telephone apparatus ready for a trip across the mountains. Portable equipment is used by the forest rangers in the Missoula National Forest, Montana, for communication over short distances which cannot practicably be spanned in any other way. A non-denominational religious conference open to the radio audience through WEAF. Reverend S. Parks Cadman, D.D., standing at the left, is shown answering questions submitted by the audience at the Men's Conference of the Bedford Branch YMCA, Brooklyn, New York, and read off to him by Mr. Halsey Hammond, conference chairman. The disseminating of religion in this manner has met with a tremendous response from the listeners in. Filling the ether with the services of any particular denomination, however, is likely to be less justifiable than the broadcasting of these conferences. Mrs. Bethman assembling a 3-tube receiver. One corner of a room serves as her shop. While she is putting one set together, music is often coming in from another set, reproduced with the help of the phonograph horn. Something special, judging from Mrs. Bethman's expression. This set is one of the 36 which she has made. 42nd Street and the Theatrical District, from the transmitter house. This photo happened to be taken when the station was broadcasting music from the Hotel Astor roof, which is seen brightly illuminated at the right of the picture. The horizontal dots in the background are lights on the Jersey Shore. Trying the loudspeaker set in the room adjoining the studio. From left to right, J. Arch Mears, president of the Wired Radio Service Company, E.W. Daniels, who has aided in the development of the 1- and 2-tube wired radio sets, Samuel Eisler, and R.D. Duncan Jr., chief radio engineer of the North American Company, who formerly worked with General Squire at Washington and has been in charge, during the past year, of the experimental work of the Wired Radio Service Company. The set used in rebroadcasting. Music, speeches, sporting events, etc. are from time to time tuned in with this 5-tube receiver, put through the power amplifier seen at the right, and rebroadcasted to the Wired Radio Service Company's subscribers. This amateur hears London regularly. But this is scarcely strange because he lives there. Frederick L. Hogg, Radio 2SH of Highgate, London, numbers the following stations among his American acquaintances: WJZ, WGI, WGY, WOO, WOR, WEAF, and WDAF, Kansas City. About 60 amateurs in the United States have been heard, including 5ZA in New Mexico. Mr. Hogg says that his 10-watt transmitter has been heard all over Europe. A section of the control room at Broadcast Central, Aeolian Hall. The amplifier rack with the interphone unit on top of it for talking with the roof in the studio is seen at the left. At the right is the oscillograph with its four-sided mirror in which the voice pictures appear. The transmitter house on top of Aeolian Hall. It is here that the voice currents from the studio and control room, 13 floors below, are amplified and delivered to the antenna, part of which can be seen in the upper left-hand corner of the picture. The announcer in the studio, the operator in the control room, and the transmitter house personnel keep in constant touch with one another by means of a special telephone system. Now you see it and now you don't. The fan who begins with a neat set each evening and ends with a set plus wire, parts, junk, tools, etc. is advised against this scheme. A treat for French broadcast listeners. Madame Georgette Leblanc, former wife of the Belgian author Maurice Maeterlinck, gave a talk on the American moving picture at Station Radiola in Paris. The American Radio Relay League banquet at the Second National Convention in Chicago. Every radio district in the US was represented. There were delegates from Canada and one from France. The convention was a great success, and indicated a very keen interest in the brass-pounding, night owl type of radio, a veritable tribute to hamdom. Were you there? His invention sends symbols through the air. C. Francis Jenkins, Washington inventor, has developed apparatus which government experts have declared should revolutionize wire and wireless telegraphy in the Orient. It photographs the original message, transmits it, and reproduces an exact duplicate of it at the receiving end. A super in an auto. It has been successfully employed by Mr. Toohill of Garden City, Long Island. The machine is of experimental character, hence the many controls. A truly portable receiver, exhibited at the second annual radio exposition held in New York in October. This 5-tube receiver is an example of excellent wiring and design. It was entered in the amateur contest by Mr. Sidney Kassendorf. Antenna and ground equipment. This assortment consists of heavy insulated copper wire for the ground connection, lighter insulated wire for the lead-in, bare-stranded copper or phosphor bronze wire for the antenna, screw eyes, a ground clamp, insulated double-pointed tacks, a porcelain lead-in tube, a lighting arrestor, and various other glazed porcelain insulators. The receiving station at Bornholm employs this monster loop held in place by a tall mast and many guy wires. It is part of a radio link, something like the one we have been operating between Catalina Island and the mainland.